Welcome to the GreatBase Tennis Podcast, episode 261. I'm Steve Smith, and at the table we have...
Costas Alevizopoulos.
Say that one more time.
Costas Alevizopoulos.
And then from Dallas, by way of North Dakota, we have Dave Anderson. Hello, Dave.
How's it going, everyone?
And then also the founder of the GreatBase Tennis Podcast, the one and only Andy Fitzell. Catching up with Andy.
Hello. Yeah. Boy, it's good to be back on the podcast.
Yeah, we'll have to catch up with Andy. Smorgasbord. Let's have a smorgasbord. It's a good Swedish word. The other day, Thomas Olested. I thought you spoke to Thomas Olested. He's in Stockholm. And we used to call him the damn Swede because back in the 80s, let's just start with a little trivia. Back in the 80s, there were some really good Swedes. Now, not Bjorn Borg, right after Borg. Can you name any of those great Swedes, guys? I got these written down. Nate, give us one. All right.
Are you opening it up to us or Costa?
Yeah. No, who's ready to chime in.
Yeah, Wilander, Jared.
Mats Wilander, Jared.
Henrik Sundström.
Nyström.
Nyström, yes.
Yeah. Nyström.
Edberg. Gunnarsson was in there as well, right? He's a little bit younger.
Yeah, I'm partial to
Mats Wilander. There's a guy who had the GreatBase, solid player.
Yeah.
Won the French, 1982, 1988. He won 3 of the 4 majors. Really added to his game. Mats Wilander. Bjorkman. What comes to your mind when you hear the name Bjorkman?
On volleys.
No volleys?
Solid volleys.
Solid volleys, yes, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
He actually got to the semis as singles at Wimbledon one year, right? Hockey player.
Yeah.
Yeah. All the Swedes played bandy on the gym floor and then on the ice. With trivia question, who coached Bjorn Borg? He was 9 times the Swedish champion.
All right. I'm not going to get it.
Leonard Berglund.
Leonard Berglund, his original coach. Yeah.
Percy Roseberg was his junior coach.
Yeah.
Percy Roseberg is the gentleman who he didn't change Borg, but he did change Edberg. Interesting. From a two-hander to a one-hander. Edberg, like Sampras, had a great two-hander. And then Sven Davidson, he won the French. Who was the guy from France who beat Nadal at the French? RS.
The Swedish Soderling.
Robin Soderling.
Mm-hmm.
With But let's catch up with Andy. Andy, you're in Columbus. Costas is born in the U.S., raised in Greece. Played college tennis where in Ohio?
25 miles from Columbus, called a small school called Denison.
They won the Nationals this year.
We did, yeah.
And their coach used to be at Ohio State, David Schilling. The Ohio State connection.
Right.
Congratulations to David and the Denison players. And you're in Columbus. Tell us what you're doing in Columbus, Andy.
Yeah, I'm in Columbus. I've been here a couple of days now, still getting over the jet lag, but I'm here coaching Robert Cash and JJ Tracy. Just started with them at Wimbledon. And while I'm here, I'm helping the guy that I've been working remotely with, Alexander Bernard. He plays for Ohio State. And there's one other guy too, JP Day, that I'm helping, but he's a little bit beat up right now, injured. And our boy, Alex Fuchs, is also injured. But great to be back in Columbus, back in the motherland.
Is Alex Fuchs
always feels good?
He's so injured, Alex Fuchs? Have you seen him hit balls or?
I haven't seen him yet. Yeah, I haven't seen him. I was over there today and doing some work, and I was hoping to bump into him, but he wasn't around.
Big serve.
Yeah, so getting ready for Cincinnati. Yeah. And then Cincinnati, and then we'll see after that, leading up to the U.S. Open, if they can play one more tournament or not. But everything's pretty stacked right now on tour, so they may not be able to play in Winston-Salem, but we'll see.
They won the NCAAs, right?
Won the NCAAs last year. Got into the U.S. Open, went around there, and then played the French this year. And then I was over with them at Wimbledon. They won around there, and then lost to the eventual finalist. They had match point, which is a tough one to swallow, but had match point, playing pretty well. And then they won Newport and then Los Cabos.
That's good.
The last couple weeks.
I heard him on a podcast, the Doubles Only podcast, perhaps that's the name of it.
Right. Yeah. Will Bocek.
Yeah. With he's really climbed the ranks with that, his efforts in doubles. That's great. I remember Robert Cash being in Orlando, and Ty was trying to connect him with me to work on his serve, but he was with his girlfriend, and it didn't happen. I didn't get to meet the famous Robert Cash.
Had a great last time, yeah.
With no checks, just cash. Smorgasbord, a little bit of everything. Dave, SMU, they're looking for a women's coach. What's going to happen at SMU? That's always an interesting thing to see who gets the job.
Yeah, I mean, your guess is probably as good as mine. I know it's the job a lot of people would like to have that are in the college coaching field, and just an amazing facility down there, and a lot of support in the community. So I don't think they'll have any shortage to people to draw from. It'll be interesting to see, who comes out and on the top in that hunt, because I imagine it'll be a perceived big name in the college coaching field or college coaching industry, and I think SMU has the ability to make it financially rewarding for whoever comes that direction. But time will tell. I imagine it's going to happen very, very quick.
I remember a few years ago, I had a large group. Andy, help me with the correct pronunciation of Petrus Kukimore.
Pretty good.
Yeah, you'll take that?
Kukimore, yeah.
I think I'm way off. You're being kind. But we took 25 South Africans to see that place. Whoa, what a beautiful place. And now they're in the ACC, right?
Yeah, shifted over, and it's a tough conference. They're going to have to definitely climb from the bottom up in that conference. But I think they can do it if they have the right leadership and the right type of person in there. It'd be great to see them, from a community standpoint. I'd love to see SMU and get back up to where they have been, at least in the men's side. They've been there in the women's too, but they've had some good years. But it's, I think, based like many places on the recruiting. Some of the places are really, really able to get, strong recruiting groups in and have results on that. But if they could have the ability to have a coach there that can do the recruiting and then have a strong developmental path too, boy, it would be something special.
I remember Dennis Ralston was the men's coach, but going way back, little trivia. What used to happen in SMU's Moody Coliseum?
The WCTs and the Virginia Slims both.
Yeah. I was fortunate enough to watch Laver and Rosewall with big time tennis. What's it cost to go to school at SMU now? Any idea?
I think about 80.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
Wow.
Yeah, about 80,000.
Pesos or dollars?
Dollars, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good chunk of change.
Actually, going way back, Dave and I were in Tyler, Texas, a grocery store called Brookshire's. Brad Brookshire, the family, they were major contributors to building that facility, correct?
Yeah, Brad's name is right on the front of it, and there were some other people involved in it as well, but they put a lot of money into making that facility a reality.
You were there when Brad approached us with his NTRP team, And that's when Tylee was studying at the university, getting a master's in kinesiology. And we actually did with his guys, we did body fat, body composition. We got these guys really fit. And when they went to nationals, I can't remember if they were 5.0s or 4.5s, but when they went, my memory is that 3 of them got bumped. They didn't get they just got pulled. They just said, you're not a 4.5. These guys, they trained like we trained. They trained like juniors. And that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
I wonder if Brad would have had any pull on. It's always interesting, I tell people, and Costas, Andy, and Dave would know this throughout the 1980s. My job was to get other people jobs, and I used to tell people if you get in the final 3, then it's just a flip of a coin. The right person, or I should say, the best person doesn't always get hired. That's certainly an understatement.
I think it's handled these days. Everything is pretty guarded. I think people can maybe have some input on things, but the search committees and the number of boards and such that are involved in hiring like that, I think it at best can get maybe a foot in the door, but I don't even know if it gets you, into the quarterfinals of the interviews.
The good Lord, he made planet Earth in 7 days, and then he turned it over to a committee. Look what happened. With Tyler Junior College, I was too young to realize how powerful the president of the board of trustees is. And, that's how that all happened. Is the late Eugene Allen was a dentist. He had set up the dental program for dental hygienists, and he knew what I had been doing as far as studying tennis teachers. But it was just one person said, this is what we're going to do. I mean, he had the know-how, having done what he did for dentists, but dental hygienists. Yeah, but really interesting. But the power of the pen, if one person wants to make it happen. It's just like in training tennis teachers, young tennis teachers. Many times, we would educate people for 2 years, Costas, our listeners, and then their experience wouldn't match their education. So we've had a lot of people over the years work at a place where it just was very frustrating, like an island. Is that people going into a program where there's no orientation and no continuity from one court to the next, but just being a young tennis teacher, if it's a club owner or it's a general manager or the tennis director, the person at the top needs to be making the right decision. And a lot of times people, like say we've talked about the USTA, other governing bodies of tennis, it's really interesting that people that are really not connected with actually teaching and coaching and player development are making the decisions. And I think when it really comes right down to it, within college tennis, there's a big question mark. How much player development is there really? Does a kid come in as a walk-on, which doesn't exist anymore, where you can't have walk-ons. You only have 10 players. None of them walk-ons, but the old Jim Verdict, the climb from, you're not in the lineup as a freshman. By the time you're a senior, you're an all-American national champion. With that, let's talk about Kalamazoo. We're going from Columbus to Dallas, and now we're going to Kalamazoo. What a name. What do you got, Dave?
Yeah, I was telling the guys, I was just going to say quickly, it's been some years since I've been there, but I think the last time I was there, they still had Vic's plaque on there that he lived in the ball closet, Vic Braden Lipchip. I don't know if they still have that. I've heard that it was removed.
Yeah, I haven't been there a few years. Yeah, Vic, native of Michigan, won the high school state championship 3 times. Good tennis player. People don't realize that. Fat Albert could play. He was a little guy, but he was a starting quarterback. His big sport was basketball. That was his favorite sport. But Kalamazoo College, Western Michigan won the NCAA hockey team, the men's hockey championship. And I guess they're building a beautiful arena. I mean, they have. It's because it's not open. But Dave, did you have the blueberries and yogurt?
Yeah. Had one just to honor the tradition, and was a good few days up there. I'm just, I know everybody has their opinion on it. I actually asked a few of the college coaches I bumped into what their thoughts were. They didn't seem, a few of them didn't mind it. The 256 pause to me, probably till the day I die, will just not seem right at, what is now referred to as the L1 Nationals, but, the hard courts, the clay courts, the indoors, things like that. Indoors is to 256, but the draw is just too big. And, getting there to Kalamazoo is an incredible honor, but, getting there in 128 draws is really what we have to go back to. And there's just no doubt about it. And they had the Battle of the Section. Everything is just renamed in this day and time to make it a little more sexy for the people involved in the sport. And it was an intersectional event really. And that was held, prior, but then there was 2 full days of rest. So, some of these families have been up there since the 22nd or 23rd of July. And we're just ruling out a common person. And, I went up on my own nickel. I don't mind doing that. There's a coach that is from our place that is getting funded. But the whole thing is we just got it all wrong. And it scares me because that probably won't be too pleasant in, maybe not, for the 22, 23-year-old coaches coming up. In 20 years, I don't know what they're going to be looking at, but we're ruling out the average Joe. There's just no way that it can be funded without other people stepping up and either making the financial sacrifice, whether it's a coach or a club or whatever. And it's brutal. And I blame our governing body, and I don't mind not pulling any punches on it. Until they really see what they're doing to the game, it's just going to continue to hurt it.
It's money, right?
Money. Chamber of Commerce.
Get those entry fees and hotels and the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and so many down days. Giving players a day off, the junior tournament. You got to think of the parents' pocketbook. Tennis has to be, dealt with from a financial standpoint. Too expensive. With Kalamazoo used to be 18s, red clay, best of 5 sets, draw 64, open to international players, and a lot of different ways to get to Kalamazoo. Used to be you had to play through your section, and you had to play in your backyard. So now there's a lot of people who they don't really play matches, local matches. They don't play in their, like a Florida kid doesn't necessarily play Florida matches, but years ago you had to. That was the only way to get in.
And a lot of the top kids now, you always thought of that as just a premier event for the U.S. juniors, and it still is. But a lot of the kids, aren't even bumping into each other because out of the top 20, 75% of them are just traveling playing ITFs. So they're not even at the junior and the other L1s. It's really become a mess. And then, it's just a trickle down effect. And then the kids that are slightly under them think that's the magic sauce and secret sauce to getting great. And then it just goes on and just great tradition and history in the game is lost, let alone it's kind of a futile effort in terms of what they're chasing.
Well, it is a two-sided coin, and you have to really take your hat off, congratulate the families that have got their children to that level, the players, obviously, first and foremost. I remember watching the quarterfinals at Stowe Stadium, and 2 coaches I've had a lot to do with over the years, Jimmy Johnson and Brandon Fallon. And, I was pointing things out to them about the players and how they could improve, and, they started chuckling. They're like, oh, no, guys, this is American tennis. We're not laughing right now. Our better players have to become better. And, long before they're even of age to go to Kalamazoo. No substitute for a good beginning. How about the doubles? Andy can circle back and talk about why I think Cash and Tracy are doing so well. But tell us a little bit about the doubles at Kalamazoo.
Yeah, it was just like, I mean, I don't want to, ruffle anyone's feathers, but it was no different. It was just a little bit younger, lesser athlete, but playing doubles very similar to when, if you went and watched the A&M versus UT dual match at the indoors when I took our group down there.
Was that men or women? You remind me.
The men, yeah. And but it was I mean, it was for the most part identical, other than the fact that the athletes were bigger and stronger in the collegiate game. Mason Vaughn was one of the few, and we had a couple other kids up there that were playing doubles. In fact, I ran into the Harvard coach who well, Steve and Andrew, and he said he watched Mason and this boy James Ross play, and he said it was the best doubles he had watched. That was at the Battle of the Section. Said it was the best doubles he'd watched the entire time. But it's just an epidemic. I mean, and it spread a lot quicker than COVID did, and these people can't really see how it's affecting not only their doubles game, but the effect it has on their one-dimensional approach to their singles and just their whole look at tennis. But it wasn't too impressive. Mason's in the quarters tomorrow with the guy who, isn't going to come forward, but he's a 2 seed in the singles, and he's a good young player. But people just can't see down the road as to what's going to happen, and that's the scary part. No matter, and we're trying to sell it to them, but for every one of us, there's 9 that aren't, and that are really, just as convincing, but in a manner that's a lot more palatable to people.
The light at the end of the tunnel is a train coming right at you. Communicated with Mark Hamlin today. I was in Berlin, and there was a dad. His kid was not quite 4, and the dad wanted me to see his kid. The kid comes out. He gets his serve in every time. He puts the racket in the tray position like he's coaching, or going to carry a pizza. He tosses the ball up, taps it in. And the dad said, "What do you think?" He said, "Never let him hit that ball again that way." He was just, but he gets the ball in the box every time. No, the light at the end of the tunnel is a train coming right at you. It's not a way out. But for parents listening, if you're going down the road for the first time. That term Dave Secker used one time not too long ago, coach at NC State. Intoxicated. The parents are just so enthusiastic, so excited about their kids playing better. They can't see it. And it's grip, swing, body. It's just amazing. Kids like, say, for example, let's start at the net going backwards. They're running around their backhand volley. At least they're at the net. And then approach shots, they don't know the distance from A to B. They're running east and west. Court runs north and south. And they just don't get in. They just don't close, go forward. But that just comes back to tennis needs. The kids need to understand a little bit of geometry, a little bit of statistics, a little bit of physics, biomechanics. Andy, you're such a lousy coach. How do you think that Cash and Tracy are doing so well?
Well, one thing, they get to spend 4 or 5 years together in Ty's program. They're going to hit a lot of balls. Obviously, just get to know each other. They're both pretty level-headed friends, teammates and good competitors. They're going to come out of Ty's program and Justin and be competing. That's one thing for sure. 2, they're playing free, no expectations, right? I mean, Robert was basically planning on going to medical school. So they're able just to play free and not have a whole lot of pressure on themselves. That's going to help a lot. Being new as well as the tour, there's not a whole lot of books on them. Guys, can't see a ton of film on them, so that all helps. And with time, people will start to get to know their games, and that's where you got to keep working. But yeah, they're feeling good right now. They're confident, and I feel like they can beat just about anybody. I worked with JJ, and he was in college. Did some surgery on his serve, but filmed everything, did everything, but a lot of work on his serve, and he's hitting that pretty well. He's gotten stronger. And then, starting with them at Wimbledon, shared a lot of information, a lot of basics, and then they asked me to keep helping them out.
I heard on the podcast they're trying to rally in the alley. That'll have your swings be short and compact, vertical going forward, going upward.
Oh, exactly. I mean, just a lot of the basic drills that trying to help them be efficient. But then, it's like you just go over dimensions of the court. It's like, okay, let's go through tennis math and in the middle and then trying to be clean, but capture the fortress, driver lob, just all these aspects all these little nuggets that, are starting to add up. But overall, their strengths right now are their games complement one another. Jade is a little bit more aggressive, a little more flashy, and Robert's solid. He's always pretty solid, pretty well, and Jade is working on that. But they're competing well right now, and I'm feeling confident. So yeah, we're chipping away on basics and showing them how to practice. Like I know at Newport, they were doing some mini tennis things, and I think it was actually Will Bocek site shared something like that where they, I gave them some drills to start doing every day, including like a ghost doubles, one bout doubles, rallying through the alley, things like that, and they were doing that, and someone filmed it and mentioned that, like mini tennis volleys, it's like, okay, you're just going to get up here and form a wall, and not only a wall as a team, but a wall with your racket face. And so they've been doing some basic stuff, and it's been really fun because they're the kind of guys that, are just solid up from the neck up, and, they're writing thank you notes to tournament directors. It's just, some stuff that you don't see happen all the time. So it's been good. It's been really fun to work with them. The work ethic is there, and, obviously my style and Ty style is just very similar. So that helps as well. Just kidding.
Ty Tucker. I think what you need to do tomorrow is Ty's around, just go right up and go, hey, Tucker, I think you're a little soft, and just slap him across the head. For our listeners, Ty, he looks like Sergeant Carter, if you're the old people listening on the Gomer Pyle show. Ty Tucker. I always tell people if the USTA could dig back and go, what was Craig Tiley doing with tennis math? And, he lived the GreatBase for 7 years, and just information from this coach and that coach, Braden and Vandermeer and Burdick and on. But if you put Tiley, the teacher, and then Tucker, the coach, then that's what the USTA model should be, because they work so hard. And I love how you say they can compete. Actually, another Ohio State name, Jeremy Wertzman, one of his players is here, just got in last night. You've worked with him, Andy. Michael Andre.
Michael Andre. Yeah.
Lefty. You don't want to have wishful thinking, but that kid he's very athletic. And if you could just turn the clock back and go, and that's where it starts, mom and dad. You have to have solid base. You have to have fundamentals. It's just in every sport. I'd like to mention, Connor McDavid. I was in Toronto for 2 years. My kids wanted to play hockey. I said, okay, I know just the place to go. So, with the skating, he's doing with Yari Boriski, who taught him how to skate. NHL finals. He's doing the same drills he did when he was 7, 8 years old. I mean, in hockey, if you can't skate, you can't play. But in tennis, you have to understand you're playing, as Vic would say, you're playing the toad on the other side of the net. And Vic was a great comedian because he would say, "We toads." And so the old thing, when Crummie's playing Crummier, who wins? Crummie wins, but they don't know they're Crummie because they played Crummier. But Wertzman and Scott Lipsky was such a leader as a young guy on the tennis court. They won a final 6-0, 6-0. I believe they won the 16s and the 18s. They won 2 titles, but that was when Doug McCurdy was in charge of the USTA. And I remember they split them up. They sent Lipsky to Europe, and Wertzman didn't get to go. But, I did some video work, did a lot of work, obviously with Jeremy, but but back in the day, is coming back to ice hockey, if the puck's in the corner and you don't go after, it's like, well, I'm not going to go in there. If I get there first, I'm going to be checked into the boards. That's the way I look at a kid who doesn't serve in volley and doubles. It's kind of like there's a fumble in football and you're not going to fall on it. It's like, I'm not going up there. I could miss. I could get hurt. That ball could hit me.
Yeah.
There's a famous story about a hockey player, goalie, Jerry Cheevers, and Bobby Hall had this huge slap shot. And Jerry Cheevers got out of the way. He's the goalie. His defenseman said, "What are you doing?" And Jerry Cheevers goes, "That thing could hit me." So, but Vic Braden's favorite drill is each player lines up at the baseline and you just rat-a-tat-tat. You both go forward and you just hit volleys at each other.
Yeah. Go at each other. Yeah.
Do it with foam balls. Actually, it was a good question. A brother asked me the other day about his sister. How can I help her out? She's afraid of the ball. If a kid plays soccer, they'll stop the ball with their chest. They can't use their hands, but they have to stop the ball. And there's, that just carries over to other sports. Not quite like getting in front of a hockey puck and trying to block it, but
reminds me of Happy Gilmore. Happy Gilmore 2 just came out on Netflix. Watched that. I thought it was pretty fun. But Happy was a hockey player getting into golf, and he would go to the batting cages, and he would just get in front of the ball and just let it hit him. And he was like, "Yeah, bring that on. Oh, yeah, I love it." And he just let the ball hit him. It was a great scene. But it really is. It's kind of in a way where I used to do a lot of rock climbing, and to get over the fear of falling, you just have to fall. So really you'd go past the last clip that you clip in when you're lead climbing. You can go 5-6 feet, so you're going to fall twice the distance, right? And you just fall. And then once you kind of get over the field, you go, okay, I'm not going to die. You just fall. Then you're free. You're free mentally. But, until you get to that point, you get like a sewing machine leg, you're going to fall and you're going to lose your grip and your leg starts trembling. So you just got to get over the fear. And it's the same thing at the net. It starts slow, but you could have someone just hit you a couple times, and it's, you're not going to get killed, and then just work on your skills, start slow and then slowly pick up the speed.
No, you can't do this in America anymore, but we used to feed balls at players, tennis balls, and they had to stop it with their chest. You do that now. So many things have gone away where tennis players are running in place and just go hit it, and you just do a belly flop on the floor. Bill Harris with the book Amazing Racers, his cross-country team does that. You mentioned batting cage. Steve Young went to our program for tennis teacher for 2 years, and he was around for 3 more, so 5 years. Did a lot of different...
quarterback.
Not the quarterback, no. Did a lot of different things with his summer internships, but he was at Bollettieri's. And Aaron Crickstein always had the Detroit Tigers cap on, and he liked baseball. So Young was, I don't know if he was a driver, but he was with Andre Agassi and Aaron Crickstein. And Agassi, he said, hey, turn that machine out. He grabbed a baseball bat. The machine was coming, the balls were coming out as fast as the machine would go. And Agassi is running forward, hitting him out of the air with a baseball bat. With a tennis swing.
On the left side, right? On the left of the backhand.
Yeah. And then the baseball players, as the story goes, they just stopped and looked at each other. Who is this guy? And, that's just Milan. He was trained at such an early age with his dad with a souped up ball machine.
The house was brain tight being an ST, they got the best hand eye.
How about your doubles team? You want to skip that, or is that you share any secrets, or how about those guys with introvert, extrovert? Who's in the deuce court? You got any of that going?
Well, we haven't gotten through that yet, but I would say, again, Robert, a little more the introverted side. Usually is the deuce court player. I think Gage is a little more of the risk taker.
Yeah,
especially on the return. Yeah, but no, I haven't gotten into that with them. I think I did a long time ago with JJ. I haven't gotten into that.
What's up with JJ?
JJ Wolf?
Yeah.
He's getting back at it. He's training. He's in Florida. Mom actually sent me a video of his serve the other day, and so he's starting off slowly. He's been out for a while, injured, but he's been doing a lot of track work and some physical stuff, and I think he's just getting to the point where he's starting to hit some.
Okay, smorgasbords. Let's go Canadian Open. You guys had a chance to be watching the Canadian Open? Don't eat yellow snow. That's one thing the Canadians know.
Watched a few points just this afternoon before practice. It was Taylor Fritz and Rublev both hitting the ball so well off the ground, but there's just in a handful of points that I watched, Rublev, can't recognize that vulnerable position, or maybe he does, but he doesn't go in and take the ball out of the air. And Fritz is just as solid, if not more so, off the ground. So he ends up winning the points, but Rublev has chances to get in there.
Yeah, well, if Fritz can hit through the court more, he hits deeper. With not SMU, but T-Bar M. Beautiful club, not so far from where Dave is at Brookhaven. I'm there with my son, Connor. Rublev is maybe 17. Obviously, his English is much better now. He's a very, very popular guy, funny guy. But when a court would open up, he would just go, and he was out, the challenger. He would just go player to player and ask him to hit. And then if the courts are all taken, he never left the gym. He was just in there. I don't think at that time he had anybody telling him what to do. He's just pumping iron. And I remember some of the guys said, "Oh, that guy's going to burn out." I said, "I don't think so." I said, "I think that guy's going to go straight to the top." But his game's solid. I mean, so good. I think he's been 8 quarterfinals, something like that. Andre Barbosa can look that up for us. But yeah, he just from the service line in can't finish. It's amazing. It's like Zverev, he's lowered his toss, but in stages. It's like, why, does someone just tell you, well, you want to get more racket hit speed. If you look at the best servers in the history of the game, but it's so important. I mean, Fritz, how he starts a point on both serve and return, and he just keeps getting better. But to break into, he won Indian Wells. He's been deep in majors, but to win a Wimbledon, to win a U.S. Open, be nice if you could go in. And there's a late Dave Schneider, coach at the University of Texas for the longest time, said about Scott Stewart, Dave, great athlete you and I worked with. You think you could just go in and poke one volley? Because there's a guy who played one up, one back doubles and hesitated going forward. But what a competitor, what an athlete.
I heard your conversations on Wimbledon, and one thing with the men's final, I thought Alcaraz would get in there more than Sinner, but Sinner was into the net almost twice as much as Alcaraz.
Yeah, shocking.
And I think he was 30, I believe it was 30 for 40 at the net, and Alcaraz was like 17 for 23.
More shocking is coaching on the sidelines, isn't it?
Yeah,
coaching on the sidelines, point by point, and to have that occur.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that, Andy, you understand Spanish. At one time, they had Mary Jo Fernandez translating from the box. And I just wondered, did she actually say exactly what they said? But so much chirping, so much chirping. Just like Braden used to say years ago. You think at the highest level of coaching, it'd be so sophisticated. his line was, for Illy Nastasi's coach comes up and goes, "What do you like to drink when you play indoors?"
Yeah.
Yeah. For like 4 years, we ran the NJCA Nationals, the men's tournament. And incognito, I had one of the staff members. I said, "Don't say anything. Just sit really close to the coach and just write down all the phrases that you hear. Don't hit in the net. Don't hit in the net." It's like, that's just genius. That's gotta be the secret. Don't hit in the net. Go ahead.
I was going to say it's difficult too. That it's like I don't like the coaching. Number one, I've done on the WTA tour where with the way they used to do it, where you go out on the court, and it's like a panic because you got to run out there and you got 60 seconds, and sometimes you're mic'd up, like, oh geez. But it's kind of like if you're going to do the coaching, like sit there on the bench or whatever, because do it in the crowd. Sometimes they can't even hear you. You got to scream things, and then you can't have a conversation. That's in the rules, unless there's like a injury timeout. You can just do these short things, or you can signal. But it's like, just get rid of the coaching. It's like Roger said. I actually asked him the question in Indian Wells. What do you think of the coaching that they're doing on the WTA now, testing out? And he just said, I don't like it. He goes, you prepare for the test and then you take the test. He goes, you don't get to call your mom and ask her what 2 + 2 is. That's verbatim what he said. It's never been really fun to try to get a point across in the middle of the crowd. And, it's kind of awkward. So it's like, if you're going to do it, just, do it like they do in other sports then,
Federer's answered that question many times. One was, yeah, okay, bring your tutor to the test. They can't do it. With Robert Steckley, a Canadian that we spent a lot of time with when he was younger, same age group as Federer. And Federer one time, Steckley was out of tennis, back in tennis, and he did a little work for Tennis Canada where he was Roger didn't have a coach, and he was assigned Steckley as a hitting partner for the week. And Federer said, always wondered what happened. He had more talent than all this. But Steckley, he's done a lot of coaching on the WTA, and his personality, I think this is so important, is he gets people to relax and laugh. I mean, I've done quite a bit of coaching in college tennis, and, so I'm always talking to the player. I said, you see that lady up there in the third row, on the very, very top? I said, I think she's staring at me. I think she thinks I'm gorgeous. And they go, what'd you say?
It's in front of the brain to light up. You get people out of the back of the brain, which is where they go when they're losing.
Yeah, lighten up. That was the same famous thing with Joe Montana's Don Candy, the late comedian actor. It's a big time huddle, and the quarterback says, "Hey, just go look at section F. Look straight down, all the way down. Don Candy's at the game."
Don Candy's in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing. Yeah. Exactly. Perspective as well. That's
where I love what Ash Barty used to say, that the chips are going to fall where they fall. Like, people forget, there's so many things we repeat on this podcast, but like her father would go up to the parents of her opponent and go, hey, you're doing yourself a favor if you play this way against my daughter. You would actually tell the people how to beat his daughter. That's somebody who really understands junior tennis. And it's just junior, right. It's just junior tennis, the whole thing, 64 idiots. That's not very nice. Who wins? One idiot? 64 12-year-olds. Jose Aguirre said one time about 1,200 tennis. He goes, somebody has to win. And
well, here's the funny part though that we talk about is, I'm with you, Andy. I think the sooner they throw it in the trash with the coaching, the better. That they brought onto the pro tour, but it's trickling down already into the world that I live in so much in junior tennis, and that you guys do too. And, in the junior game, you can't clap and say, let's fight. And then you're coded or you're warned on the sidelines for a 12-year-old or a 13-year-old or all the way up through juniors. And then I think the whole thing is screwy because you get into college and the coach is walking around between points on the court. And then you get into the professional ranks and they're allowing coaching. So, I mean, we're giving pacifiers to pros and we're not educating the younger part of the game in a way that we could. I mean, the thing to me is all reversed.
Yeah.
It's just not effective. But I can tell you this, that I see the trend already in junior tennis coming at tournaments where kids can't play a point anymore without looking to their group of people that are there, whether it's parents or a coach or they're mimicking what they see on TV, and I think it's having a really negative effect already in junior tennis.
Yeah, it's all about you want to just learn to solve problems, and that for me was always the fun part. Try to figure out how to beat this guy.
Yeah.
Well, that's like Center said the reason he left skiing is that, and a father of a young kid we work with up here skis at the national level. I was telling him the story. He goes, 26 seconds to go top of the mountain down to the bottom of the mountain. I'm sure it varies obviously from one trail to the next or one mountain to the next, but Center said, no, I like tennis. It's 3 hours of trying to figure it out. Problem solve. The homesickness, the separation anxiety, over-parenting, at the pro level, when they're look to the box every time, to me, that's a problem. Is, I can see, in the, some really key points in the match, there's the adrenaline rush, but every point, and then the chirping, and then when, I certainly sat in where somebody could tell me what they're saying, or you can just hear it. One of the most famous ones was Andy Roddick was picked up on a live mic. Obviously, number one player in the U.S. Wimbledon final 3 times in a row. The guy's obviously rightfully so in the Hall of Fame. And Patrick McEnroe is his bench coach, Davis Cup captain. Hard court, 5 sets. Serve volley 1 time, but try serving volley. One of the biggest serves in the world. And then he just drops the F-bomb. He goes, that was an effing good idea. And, with, if you just like, hey, it's a green light point, so they have no angle. How about just even a throwaway point in the very beginning, where there's no such thing as a throwaway point, but a green light point goes both ways. You could be love 40 and say, well, I'll dig it out. One time I had a college coach say, well, no, you dig it out. And I just told him, I said, that's why you're playing 6. Typically at a really good college, the very best schools, the number 6 players are obviously very, very good. But typically in college tennis, the bottom of the lineup players, again, this may not be the creme de la creme, but the baseline players, years ago, they weren't considered for doubles at all. They're going to counterattack. They're going to stay back on the baseline. And I think parents listening, you have to understand is work on your game in your junior career, because your college coach, they're not coaching everybody being number 1. They're going to say, this guy or this gal is going to play 6 for us. And rightfully so. They're going to win a lot of matches because they played junior tennis 10 years that way. So if a kid didn't go to the net for 10 years in junior tennis, what's the coach going to do? They show up at their freshman year and go, all right, we're in. No, they're going to go with what they got. And there's such a problem with wanting to win now.
Yeah.
Win now.
You wonder if it started bottom up or top to bottom. It's funny because, the not coming in doubles, but I spent some time up there with Coach Roditi from TCU, and I was just, reflecting back when I'd watched him in juniors, and I remember watching him at the zoo in 92 and 90 or 92, and he lost to Spady and Gusky in the final. And, Roditi just was a phenomenal doubles player. And then I asked him, because I watched him again a few years later in 97, the year Ashe opened up Arthur Ashe Stadium, and he was playing. And I think I've shared this before. It was the first time I had seen, really world-class doubles not come in. And it was with Alberto Berasategui. And he said, I was just getting his thoughts on it. And he said, it was after that. He said that he had never seen it before, encountered it before, and in the pro game, and he said it just spread like wildfire. And so I wonder if it's a combination of both. I think people do want a microwave, but I think the pro game. I mean, our Kalamazoo champions this year will undoubtedly be serving and staying back. I mean, Fritz and Opelka won it not long ago and didn't come in, and they beat a couple of Texas kids in the final at 18th. And So I just think what you said, Andy. People don't understand the correlation between Rublev recognizing those moments and then having the skill set developed and the instinct and such developed to want to go forward in singles. I don't think they make that connection.
Right.
It's all tied together.
In February, I was visiting in Florida. Ended up at Saddlebrook, and Alvaro Bentancur has been there forever. In fact, you have to go from Saddlebrook. There's different places that Mr. Hopman was at in South Florida. And I remember him saying about Alvaro Bentancur said about Beresitagi, he hit the ball at the same side of the racket. With the brain, you can hit the ball any way you want. And I just remember saying, tennis will never be the same. It's kind of like with Jack Sock. I say, Jack Sock, would you trade your game for Roger Federer's game? You might be better to say, would you trade your bank account for his bank account? The guy was a winner. He played 80 high school matches, 80-0, never played up, won all. Sock's a winner. And granted, big boy, big serve. Obviously a great competitor. He was a top 10 player in the world. And I mean, I would have never, ever bet that he would have won on the pro circuit playing doubles. But, first of all, great serve. But he's a gamer. One of the dumbest coaches ever around. Obviously, I'm not going to mention his name. But, either you're a winner or you're not a winner. Winners win. And that happens. I mean, I gave a young kid today a hard time. We don't do it very often. We're playing move up, move down. One of the reasons we don't do it very often is because people do it all the time. We do it with situational drills and this and that. And, we have people coming that really want to work on developing skills. But he lost to a player 8-11. I said, how did you lose 11 points? But that's where, really good competitors, and you can work on your game and you can adjust your tactics. I think as a cop-out, while I'm working on my game, you can work on technique and compete at the same time. But it's just so easy to go, well, let's just move up, move down. And they end up playing tricks on their own brain. They get, when you say ready, compete, they just have to have that internal switch. And it's like every day is a tournament.
Jack Sock's forehand, was such heavy spin as well that he gave a lot of good volleyers trouble because, the calculation involved as well. So it was effective.
Well, the tennis math, I mean, when it comes down to, we're talking to Raven Kloss, who's part of our program for a long time, and certainly, talking about, he's obviously got the point where he's got the ATP pension, but I said, those aren't the numbers that I'd like to talk about. The players who have the strong continental grip, the elbow in, the racket face open, the angle of the racket, the grip determines the angle of the racket face determines the angle of the racket path. Even when people do a lot of 2-on-1s and the people just stand at the net and people are banging balls, that's not really how you volley. There's a lot of positives of 2-on-1s, but one negative is you're not moving through your volleys. That's where McEnroe is right, where he says, you got to play. You need to play so many sets. You need to be on the phone, these juniors, if they're listening. I mean, your match count, how many people do you call to play? And you play anybody. And then you're playing somebody, how's it go? Braun versus Brain. You got an 18-year-old and they're playing a 14-year-old. Well, we know the 14-year-old's better than the 18-year-olds. We put them through skills tests and whatever, but the 14-year-old muscles the 18-year-old muscle the way through it and say, can you beat this kid with placement? Can you beat this kid just putting every ball on a dime? And but it just becomes a slugfest. And people, they play the same way day in and day out. Most tennis players, by the time they're 12 or 13 years old, that's the way they're going to play forever. That's the way the brain works. They're just programmed.
At Ohio State today, I was speaking with Hunter Callahan, who's one of the assistant coach there, and we were just talking about match play and how, because I was watching a couple of players and I was like, yeah, these guys are hitting the ball well. But it's like the same thing as when it gets into competition, it's not there. And it's just, the practice sets and, just playing, learning how to, winners win, learning how to play and just play. And just talk about, I didn't have a ton of money as a junior coming up. And so, just found people to play sets with. Didn't take lessons, but played. And then, in Southern California, there's a tournament every weekend pretty much. So you could play a lot of tournaments. And the entries, the entry fees, I think at that time were maybe like $17. So, it wasn't ridiculous like it is now. So the opportunity to just play a lot. And I just don't, see juniors doing that kind of stuff. Exactly right, Steve, where it's like, okay, play today and you're going to, every time you get a short backhand, you're going to hit underspin and come in, or you're going to take every second serve and come in, or serve and volley, or, just whatever it is. Try to find ways to get better, but actually competing and playing and trying to put the things you're taking from a lesson and putting that into play.
Hunter Callahan. I was at the NCAAs. I think it was round of 16, maybe round of 8. My son's on the team, Ohio State. And Ty, he had me coaching Callahan in the matches. And it's like, well, I think you really needed to know a player a little bit better. But anyway, I said, okay, Ty. But going back to Spadia, Dave, you and I were there in Florida. It's now Everett, but Seguzo Bassett. And, Robbie, easygoing Robbie wasn't so easygoing when he was coaching Spadia. Robbie Seguzo, number 1 player in the world in doubles for 5 years. But I have it on film. Spadia, who, he didn't win a tournament. He was 29. Agassi helped him out. Agassi said, I didn't have a clue what was going on in my life until I was 29. Really good tennis player. 19 in the world, but he also lost 19 times in the first round. It's easy to remember that. 19 and 19. But I have him on film. He used to run around the backhand volley. And I have him on film going through conventional approach volleys. And actually, he was very much like Agassi. He could, he was just very good returner, very good from the baseline. Not quite as good, but good. And, it's like, well, can you add to your game? It's like if you're a musician, you just play one song, but if you're going to learn a new song, it's like, okay, you got to put a little time into it. But I think also the circumstances is the money. People don't play doubles. The best players in the world, it's like, it's 20% of the money, and then you got to split that. And what do you know, Andy? Pro tennis, the doubles, is it in as much trouble as I hear? As far as, is it going to stick around?
I think it'll stick around, but like, for example, what's going on right now at the U.S. Open with the mixed doubles, I can understand the marketing behind it, but it's just, one of my favorite movies is called Idiocracy. And it's literally, the world is turning into this movie. It's a Mike Judge film who created Beavis and Butthead, but there's a lot of the world really is. There's Idiocracy, and it's a dumbing down of the sport. The first 2 rounds are, to 4, and you got these star players, so that's great, the marketing side of it. But are they really going to take that seriously? And then and then the semifinals and finals are they're to 6. I just, I almost feel like there should be an asterisk next to it if you end up being the champion, because it just seems like an exhibition type of thing. Even the Australian Open this year, one of my students, Kimberly Bureau, was in the final, and the third set was a super tiebreak. Like, what? Yeah. It's just, why? Doesn't make sense. So I understand the marketing and all that, but the marketing in doubles, help doubles. Everybody's got a story, and they need to tell stories. And then, unfortunately, with where attention is with social media, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, it's really up to the teams and almost the players to do some self-marketing and get yourself known that way. Put in a little work somehow to get people to know you. I think of like a Bethany Maddox-Sands, where she's a little bit flamboyant in her style, but she became marketable through that. And she's a good player as well. But yeah, I think it's going to stick around, but hope it doesn't get too dumbed down like that, too watered down, because
Here's a blast from the past. Michael Larscheid, cheesehead from Wisconsin. He coached when she was very young. And if you watch Bethany Maddox, I mean, she can play doubles. But she's a really young kid. Mike Larscheid taught her. Mike Larscheid is the gentleman who came up with. He says this about the GreatBase: is number one is print. Number two is cursive, which is going away. And number three is signature, autograph. And say Rafa and Roger, the first names both begin with R, and you know that you could kind of guess looking at their autograph. Now one has perhaps better penmanship than the other, but that's really the GreatBase, is that you got to be able to realize that you got to print first, and then it progresses from there. Tell us about coaching. Obviously, you and your wife are in Germany. Have you watch a lot of matches that are streamed, or you haven't done so much of that yet with Cash and Tracy?
that's the frustrating part. I mean, when they played Newport, I was able to watch because I was actually maybe a 125 challenger, and so a challenger TV, they do a great job. But when it comes to the 250 in Mexico the next week that they won, couldn't see it, not even on the gambling sites, which you have to do sometimes. You have to log in and try to get a stream. It's really frustrating. You think of any other sport where can you just get a copy of your match? I mean, can you imagine in basketball, football? It just wouldn't happen. In 2015 at the Australian Open, I was coaching there, and I literally, in qualifying, I had to put my own GoPro up on the fence, and they gave me a sticker on my GoPro to make it official. And that's just ridiculous. The Masters, the same thing. The Masters is going on right now, qualies in Cincinnati, and you can't watch it. Like, are you kidding me? These guys are ranked, 50 in the world, 60 in the world. So I just don't understand that. And it should be at that level, hey, here's your match. Here's a link to it. And yeah, maybe it's private or whatever, but it's just crazy how you can't get footage, that you have to go through all these different hoops. And even when you're there and you ask the people, and you can't, oftentimes you can't get it.
Even through the ATP, Andy, they give out the single stats and some of the data that's available. Are they doing that for the doubles players as well?
Not that I've seen. I'm sure they do have, at the Grand Slams. Yeah, you have all those idea, you have those stat kind of things, but there's only through David Ramos was able to get, video, like for example from Wimbledon.
Yeah, the WTA they make the women pay for the data and for the stats and everything, but on the ATP, for some reason, it's accessible. Yeah, it's bizarre.
That's just strange. I mean, that kind of stuff for the coaching side should be made available, and that's only going to help the game. If you have the match and you can go and improve, but to have to fight for that is just, all the different, broadcasting things, and it's, even like WTA tennis or WTA TV, right? It's a paid subscription, but that's not even available in the US. So you have to use VPNs to trick the system, Yeah, I'm in Colombia. And then you can log in. It's just crazy. So unfortunate. Again, goes down to money. Can you imagine in any other sport where you can't get a copy of the game? I mean, it's just silly.
We talked a little bit last week about filming, and Charlie, I want to ask you about stats, but so I turned the clock back, 1985. I'm in Hamburg teaching tennis, and I just with the Davis Cup team because, I knew the Seguzo brothers when they were really young, and Robbie, he didn't have a coach. So everybody could have a coach. So Roger and I have this suite, and we're hanging out with the team. And so the late Ken Flack and Robbie, they win the doubles, and I introduced them to Bill Jacobson, founder of CompuTennis. Just think of intellectual curiosity. And, it's always, I try sometimes, what's the best thing to say in this situation? What am I going to say? And I said, Bill, I want you to introduce you to these two guys. Then I told the late Ken Flack and Robbie, I said, I'm very sure that nobody in this building, nobody in this stadium knows more about what happened in your match than this gentleman. And you think they'd be like, okay, who is this guy? I want to talk to this guy. Why would you say that? But what about stats? I think it's tough to find stats where there's a difference between forcing and unforced. It's just a lot of times the stats they're just not in depth. Why don't you comment on that? And then doubles. I mean, can you find stats for doubles players?
Yeah, I mean, it's subjective. That's the problem with the forced and unforced. So it's not always going to be accurate. You got to kind of take that with a grain of salt. But yeah, the doubles. I mean, there are stats. It's just basic stuff. Basic serve and return numbers, but a lot of those are just not always accurate. I think you got to do that as a coach. You got to go back, and that's where, again, the film's not always available, but you got to go back and do your own stats and look at the things that you want to focus on as well. A lot of those reports, I mean, not to take anything away from the statistic companies, I think it's great, but I was talking to Matt Clore because he's obviously doing that a lot. He was at Wimbledon, so I spent some time with Matt, and these reports are so elaborate with so many different things, and then you got to break that down into what you want to communicate to your players. What's most important, and not to overdo things, but you got to find ways to make it simple. It's like, okay, let's just say your first serve percentage is low. It's like that's okay. How do you make the shot? Can you make the volley? Can you make the return? All this stuff. It's just coaching and strategy and all this kind of stuff. It's all overdone. It's like overhyped. It's overrated. It's like, can you square the racket up? Can you make the return? Did you make the return? Did you get away from the net guy? Did you get it low? Can you follow it up and make a volley? Do you know how to analyze when somebody's in a vulnerable position and come in and poach or make the volley? It always comes down to that execution.
Yeah.
So you can look at these stats, but it's like, all right, well, you're not able to execute this shot. Let's go work on that shot, or you need to improve this.
It's the same error, same mistake, same pattern that reoccurs. 50 points and 50 points in a set, generally, give or take. And
I like stats, but you can make it pretty simple. And if you're watching and take a few notes, you know what. Hey, you're doing this well. Let's keep reinforcing that. But hey, you need to learn how to hit it.
I do think with stats, though. I mean, I used CompuTennis for 17 years, and then Y2K it didn't make the breakthrough into the 2000s. But to me, watching a match is just like watching a forehand or backhand. It's just the stats. The stats are the tactics. It's just like, no, they're making the same mistake over and over again. I also think, and live by the sword, die by the sword. So yeah, you won on that shot, but the percentages, they're not in your favor. The young kid who's here, Michael Andres from Vegas. Vegas wins. The house wins. But the Wayne Gretzky's stats are for losers. They got a lot of distance in the hockey world. So, but no, then at Wimbledon, I know you were part in that room when the question was asked. And Federer asked if he looked at stats, and he said, "The only time I look at stats is at Wimbledon before the press settles in to ask questions. They put the stats in front of them." Then the next question was, "Well, gee, your coach does." And he said, "No, we both go on hunches." And then that's where in 2017, the amazing Australian Open, against Nadal. And he said, "Yeah, my father used to say I was chicken. I wouldn't hit my backhand." But those stories, I think after that period of time, Federer's answers at that time, he said, I think it was he said he'd been mixing his drinks. He wins Wimbledon. Next day, but he's Roger. He shows up, class act. And he was a little bit off where he said, "Well, it's frightening how low the level plays at Wimbledon. I know that less than 2% of the time, my opponents they're coming in behind their serve." And he just like, that's Wimbledon. That's Roger Federer. It just baffles me that, how can the best players have so many holes in their game? Or better yet, and I think there's so much edifying. There's so much edifying. You're great. I'm great. We're all great. Aren't we great? And, you don't want to, when we talk about pros, hey, hats off, just like the kids playing at Kalamazoo. But, we have two players up here. One is finished playing Division I tennis and one's playing Division I tennis. And they're both pretty much gifted. In certain circles, they would just be, well, maybe they're just average athletes. But in our world, it's like, whoa, we've got to know everybody else was 15 or younger. And it's like, so they're just bigger, stronger, faster. But how are they maneuvering their racket? That's like, watch what their racket's doing. Go ahead, Anderson. What do you got for us?
Well, I was thinking about, the stats, and I bumped in at Kalamazoo to Craig O'Shaughnessy, and he was up there, for a week, I think, with a player. I don't know how much time he actually spends with the guy. Maybe it was more, but, and I think that it's like if I got an MRI on my knee and looked at it, it's not going to do me much good to look at it. I need somebody with knowledge way beyond and expertise to be able to look at the MRI and assess where the damage is or whether it's healthy and give me a plan of attack. And I think that what Andy said is so right. I mean, stats are one thing, but then, you have to have a plan. I mean, what's the plan with the numbers? What's the plan with the stats? And I think a lot of people, from at least a lot of my years of coaching, denial's just an easier road for them to go down than to really look in the mirror and address problems. And I think that Braden's quote, the pain of change is greater than the pain of losing, is just so true, because I don't know why it's so hard for people in this sport to just kind of hear the truth. One of my mantra, that I didn't create this saying, but I don't think a day goes by I don't say it. I'll look at kids and just have them repeat, facts have no feeling. And they have to say it. And, when they're saying it, their eyes start watering up. But I think it's just hard for people to separate those two things. And, if Federer was able to do it on a hunch, good for him. But I don't think the average human being can. I think they need all the help they can get.
No, thanks, Andy. I want to ask you this. You sent this to me. When I hear Craig O'Shaughnessy, it makes me think of Scott Winberg. I was recently on Hawaii, and a nice gentleman said, "You got to get Scott Winberg on your podcast." We've had his brother Kim on. I go way back with the Winbergs. But so anyway, Craig O'Shaughnessy, at one time he worked for Kim Winberg. Everybody has the backstory. Everybody has their history. But they were teammates. Craig O'Shaughnessy and Scott Wittenberg were teammates at Saddleback out in California at junior college. And I heard they recently they dropped their team. But anyway, the Wittenbergs had a lot to do with Dustin Brown. And Dustin Brown had the famous matches with Nadal, playing him on grass. But on his podcast, what did he say? Annie, you sent it to me. What did he say about Braden, Dustin Brown?
Yeah, no, he was on a podcast that a couple guys run. I believe it's like the Changeover, something like that. They were talking about how he has an attacking style of game, and he said an American coach, Wittenberg, and he taught me. He was taught or trained by Vic Braden. I think he said old school Vic Braden, and so I kind of reshared that video, sent it to a couple people, and he said, not old school, it's just school.
Yeah.
But he did mention Vic's name, but he grew up playing on clay and just playing more of an attacking style. I mean, he does not have Vic Braden's strokes.
No.
But his serve, he does have a low toss, and he gets it out in front. And, but he plays aggressive tennis for sure.
Shout out to my son Connor. Were you with Connor when he beat Dustin Brown?
Yeah, it was all my coaching.
There you go.
100%.
You're not a lousy coach. You're an awesome coach.
No, I mean, Connor played solid that match, served really well, and he was able, to return, get the ball down. But Dustin he was all over the place, which he can be sometimes.
No, there's no fairness. They played another time and Dustin won. So I think with he played doubles with Raven Klaassen. He played doubles with Austin Krajicek. But I enjoyed listening to him on his podcast. It's amazing how many podcasts there are. How about in Germany? How's your German? Do you listen to any German podcasts?
And Deutsch is perfect. My German's okay. It doesn't help that I get out of Germany often, so it kind of comes and goes as far as practice speaking. But when I speak with my wife, we do some German.
But how about the podcast? You listen to any German podcasts?
Every once in a while, yeah. I try to follow a few accounts online just to get tennis vocabulary and just keep chipping away.
What's up with Henry Squire?
Actually, just talked to him the other day. He's been injured a little bit. He's made a few changes on his serve a little bit. He's abbreviated his motion and is actually keeping his palm down a little bit. Looked at some film and that's helping a little bit, but he's got some tendonitis in his elbow, and so he's dropped in the rankings a little bit.
Well, for our listeners, Father David, funny guy, Aussie, very quick to tell you the greatest tennis nation of all time, Australia, and arguably with what happened through the Aussies in the 50s and 60s, it's a pretty good argument. But no, we have him on film from age 6. I think there's too many times where at least twice, maybe more, you would know that he got off track. I mean, I just think that whole thing about stay the course, start the course, start the course, stay the course is, and the better players become, understand that they're not very trustworthy because they're suspicious, because the better they become, everybody wants to coach them. It's amazing.
100%. So a lot of interference starts happening from, the outside parent. Just everybody starts almost panicking, if someone loses or it just starts getting crazy.
Well, coaching Kimberly Burrell, I know Matt Clore, who's spent so much time with us, coaching like, say, Mackenzie McDonald, and, Gilbert comes up and puts his 2 cents in, and McEnroe comes up and puts his 2 cents in, and all the top Aussies are telling you what to tell Kimberly, right? And too many voices in one's head.
Yeah, so I mean, and it's just because logistics plays a part on things, but yeah, you just get a lot of people that mean well and want to help, but it starts to get confusing, and when players like even these guys, Cash and Tracy, 22, 23 years old, and to try to help them, make some changes, and the horse has been out of the barn, and when you're having success already too, it's tough because sometimes you get worse or you get better, and then are you going to not panic and stay the course and have long-term vision? And then it's tough.
We get people sending questions, and I know with just bringing up Henry Squire's name. Why don't you go first, Andy? Dave, you go second with questions on. We get this, but this is something that was written in Pinpoint versus platform. What comes to your mind, Andy?
I remember when I was early 20s, I emailed Vic Braden that exact question. And his point was that, a platform when your feet are apart is more balanced and really better for going forward, pushing forward. Pinpoint, less balanced and better for going upward. That was his response. But then again, more style than anything. But he mentioned baseball pitchers with a pinpoint. He goes, I can think of none. That was his response to a baseball pitcher doing that. So more style than anything. But I've always felt personally with a pinpoint that, you could kind of lean in on that 45, maybe not getting all the way to 45, but that you could kind of lean in a little bit easier than you could with a platform. But definitely is a little less balanced. But then how we talk about getting further rotation, bringing the foot up and really twisting the feet. Like if you look at like a Ben Shelton, even a Pete Sampras, but Ben Shelton, what's the Aussie guy's name with the huge serve?
Poprin.
Not the former player. The guy was like a linebacker.
Oh, you're talking about Sam Groff.
Yeah, Sam Groff. Same thing. I mean, he's a right-hander, so I think if his toes started pointing at 2:00, they ended up pointing at 5:00. Like he really twisted his feet, almost towards the back corner to the right. So he really coiled his body, extra when he brought his foot up. So that kind of extra turn that we'll talk about with a pinpoint, but yeah.
Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I think developmentally everybody's going to go through platform.
Yeah.
I think you've said it before, Steve, too, that if they get to a point where they're playing around with it, I mean, it seems, just go with one. I remember you making that comment. I've made the same thing. I mean, just decide, I think, to dance back and forth. But, everybody talks about Sinner making the change. A few years ago, Corda made the change right in the summer, hard court swing to a pinpoint. But I didn't really see, any significant difference in Corda's other than he brought it up a little bit, but he still laid the racket off early. But I've always felt you better have the athlete. There has to be a little bit, to me, the degree of athleticism, a little more if you're going to have somebody do the pinpoint. But you can go through the history of the sport, and I remember that answer as well. And and I can't remember whether it was from Braden or where it was from, but and I think that it's a case by case thing, and I think it can help people to go to pinpoint at times to get that feeling of having. I agree that the power line to maybe help separate the hips and the shoulders a little bit, but I think that I just today filmed a kid that was pinpointing that came in from another area. I mean, it really messed his serve up. And I said, here, we're going to go back to platform, and then we can review where it is in a few weeks and see from there. But many times people have way bigger issues on their serve than their feet. But I think it can be just a cover up. But you just got to go with one or the other.
A couple other comments on pinpoint versus platform. I tell people all the time that there's not many advanced techniques, but I would consider the pinpoint to be advanced technique. If you just have kids throw a ball, I mean, they off a platform, the arm goes first and the step goes second. So just to really help people with that, so that helps them with, the kinetic chain. But this is just mind-boggling. Some kids got a pinpoint serve and they have a palm-up serve. Yeah, that's like saying we're going to buy furniture before we put a roof on the house. And that's so common. Like, these coaches, I mean, the kids got a forehand grip. They got palm up. They're bending at the waist. It's so counterproductive. The body's going left. The body's going backwards, and they got a pinpoint stance. I remember Vic used to say, and Andy, you could comment on this, that the research at one point, I could be wrong with my memory, is that you could get in faster to the net off of the platform. But with the pinpoint, and he used to say you could get, it's the ground reaction force. It's all timing, and you could serve great with both of them. Is it Gonzalez and Sampras and Federer platform servers? But I think it's presented too many times to a kid as a must. But I think if someone's changing their serve, they've got huge problems technically. I think go back to platform, go back to basics, and say let's get everything else right. One thing I like about the pinpoint is I think a lot of times, say a right-hander, they do a very good job taking their left hip, and they can do a better job keeping their left hip to the net post, so they separate the lower body from the upper body. It's good to hear Sam Groth's name. If you think about the Don Leary word picture method, we certainly have a lot of content online where we share all these images. Sam Groth is like he checks off all the boxes.
Yeah, he's got every one of them. No, it's actually the research behind that was more, back in the day where you didn't leave the ground. So the players that leave the ground and land on the left foot, they got a little more speed on the serve, and the players that did more of a step through, so maybe didn't block the left side quite as much.
Yeah, that's right.
Didn't in the air and land, and they would get to the net a little faster.
They did change the rule that you used to have to be in contact with the ground. One thing on the serve, before I throw out another question, is the online tennis instruction. I was sent a video of Greg Lesueur. He spent 3 years with us, and I think it was overall a very, very good serve, very, very good serve explanation. Excellent. Shifts his head prior to the hit. You got to throw out a few, okay, how could it be better? We always want to do that. We all could be our own best critics. But they need to give credit to their backgrounds. I mean, with OTI, it's plagiarism. It's like, if we would be so much better off, and Vic used to say about the internet, started in 1989, so much bad information goes out so fast. But, if people come across like they're claiming it like it's their own, I think we'd be much more united, say, Dave's term, to improve tennis, go back to the future. But one thing is on stance. The lefties do it the opposite. It just seems that most players have one stance and take a righty in the deuce court. They have the foot behind them, which gives them a false sense of body rotation and supports the toss over your head. What do you think about that being a priority or even sometimes a primary flaw? Why don't you go first, Dave? What do you think about the stance on the serve?
I think it's kind of case by case, but there's no doubt that, if you look at, again, the influence that world-class play has. It's so funny we're talking about this because this literally was a topic today in video on my court, and people feel as though they're coiling, obviously, or that they're turned, and their rear foot. If I'm a right-hander in the deuce court, and the right foot being, behind the body towards the ad court, almost positioning the feet to like a 45-degree angle. Many people feel that that's conducive to serving well, but if they're pinpointing, number one, they don't get the separation of the hips and shoulders. Number two, it seems that they almost always, when they pinpoint, the right foot comes to the other side of the front foot. And I think it just leads to problems. If you thinking back to just a simple when bringing the heel to the instep or instep to the heel, and then just stepping back and having the front foot aligned at a 45, and the rear foot is really pointing to the side fence, and to go beyond that is really overkill. There's no advantage to it. There's only potential disadvantages, and the other extreme of that would be a guy like Boris Becker, where it's a little bit open. It's slightly open, but having it extreme to the rear, there's more problems that arise from it than advantages.
I got one more question, but we've got to bring Costas into this. Our friend from Greece has been here. Hopefully, it's been a learning experience for you. You have to tell us that. We'll do that towards the end of the podcast. But Tsitsipas, there's a guy that could improve his footwork on his serve. I mean, that front foot just spins out. Say you're a right-hander, all the forces need to go up and out to the right. So the moment of truth, the impact, if your front foot is pointing to the opposite net post, Vic Braden used to say, normally a good bet is you're going to lose 30 miles per hour on your serve. Your body's going the wrong way. His toss
and swing though, he needs work.
Yeah,
again, confusing, right? A lot of these guys are able to muscle the ball. Superior athletes, and they're fit. Like, you can muscle the ball, but that doesn't mean it could be better, and it's not efficient,
With one problem leads to another problem. So they have the stance where the back foot's behind them, and it supports the toss over their head. Then what happens is, they slow the racket down. They make an angular change. The racket slows down. But you're right, is that I do think that what happens, as Vic Braden would say, us toads, when we're watching the pros, I mean, juniors get in so much trouble by watching pros, and they'll defend their ego and go, well, I was watching YouTube and you're telling me to change my stance, telling me to change my toss, and they're going so-and-so. Just like curious, I mean, that horizontal plane where the racket travels, you can't see with human eye. I mean, why can he be away from tennis and just come back and just crack that apple? I mean, it's certainly motor programming, brain memory, but his racket's not slowing down as it goes way out to the side.
I mean, we talk about this a lot. I always cheer for players that have clean technique. There's a German kid who's coached by a couple guys, but one of them is Philip Kohlschreiber. His name is Justin Engel. He's 17. He's around 200. But overall, he's got just simple, clean technique on the forehand and the backhand. Not so much on the serve, but his ground strokes. I'm just like, yes, Same thing with Korda. Like, I wish that guy would have he's obviously still ranked probably, top 30. But his forehand and backhand technique are just clean. And it's great for tennis teaching. He needs a little work on the serve, and then obviously to play from the service line in. I don't think of it as much when people do a pinpoint. Obviously, I don't like it going way back. But then I can point out Karlovic and Kyrgios, and those guys, they're pretty much lined up. They're not way back, and so it helps tennis teaching because those guys serve great, and they're a little bit more of the skateboard look. But because kids are always going to look at this guy, and then you just have to ask questions. What does that do? What does that do? It's like the kid that's there right now, Michael Andre. Playing with that lower arm. It's like even the guys right now today I'm with and just talked, when they dump a forehand at the bottom of the net, it's like, no. You're playing with the lower arm. You're playing with the forearm. You can't come over the ball. So you got to play with that upper arm.
Yeah, Coach Elliott told Michael today, basically what David just said is, don't go with feelings, just go with facts. With Kohlschreiber, I mean, he wasn't an outstanding junior, correct? I mean, he wasn't off the charts, but there's a guy, used to love to watch him play. But I was at the Junior US Open with Henry Squire, and I wasn't in the meeting, but Kohlschreiber, he beat Zverev But young Squire was in the meeting. It's like, this is what you have to do. And Vic used to always say that there's not that many, the higher level you go, it's just a few tactics. It's just a few tactics. It's nothing really fancy. Before I ask one question, I'll leave the question with Dave, but I want to get a comment or two from Costas, but I've got my original joke. We all know, even those people from North Dakota, that Greece, you can spell it two different ways, but it's all the same. No, I love Greece. I mean, I guess Djokovic is going to move to Athens.
I've heard that. That's what I've seen on some, I guess, Greek media. I know he really likes Greece, and Serbian people with Greek people get along. I know he always goes and does vacation in Greece, and I heard. I hope it's not false rumors, but he moved the tournament from Belgrade to Athens. So there was a tournament in Belgrade. He's the capital of Serbia, and they moved it to Athens. I don't know if he had to do with it or not. I did see him hanging out with the Greek prime minister. So I don't know, but yeah.
Here you go, Greek news, baby. But I want to ask you about your summer here, but let me go to Dave on being at Kalamazoo. We call the approach shot the anxiety shot. When the kids are hitting it, they're not even thinking about volleying. How much did you actually see did you see any approach shots? I mean, is it just get the ball in the yellow zone and blast?
There was one kid that stood out. Yeah, I mean, most people they want nothing to do with what's on the other side of the midcourt ball. I mean that's obvious, and they're all just trying to take massive cuts at it and end there. And if it did happen to come back, nobody was remotely close to GVP. There was one young man, his older brother plays at Carolina right now, and this kid. 15, 16, and I've watched him a few times at some other events, but he's got the right idea, but he's got the wrong idea. He's got the right idea on how to play, but kind of like Dustin Brown, he's just got a lot of play in his racket, and the amount of volleys in the 5 days that I saw that were stuck. Where somebody could really just take it and finish, above net level. I could count them on one hand. Everybody's just dumping. And, not many. This young boy though, he was in on everything, just coming in on, what we call tabletop, but his was a little bit different shape than a tabletop, but he really had, good awareness of his racket head and calculated his underspin well on both sides and got in really tight on the net. And, he lost round of 16, but he just got past and didn't, because he couldn't finish a volley. He just pretty much ran cross court and knew it was coming short. But limited.
Before you go, Andy, your friend Joel Trucker, I was on an email yesterday from Mike McLaughlin about the Braden Library, and Joel Trucker said, if a kid at 15 starts to go to the net for the first time, it's like he's learning the third language. You got to go in. You can go out there and play with foam balls. You got to play mini tennis. You got to go in. But in this email, I said that Joel Trucker, a brilliant tennis mind, brilliant writer, should write the book that I recommended. The title, Vic Braden is missed and Vic Braden was missed. The information, it stands the test of time. What are your thoughts, Andy, on at the pro level? I mean, do you see people that are looking to get into volley, or is just crush it?
I think it's more like a Carlos Alcaraz, or Sinner. They're not looking for the two volley play, right? It's just they're looking to come in and just be able to put a volley into the open court after hitting an offensive shot. Where they've hurt their opponent so much, and then just having the recognition skills to come in and just knock off an easy one. It's not the approach and then volley play. You know what I mean? As far as playing a 2-shot volley sequence, you don't see it. I mean, think who right now can you think of on the tour, men or women, to hit an underspin backhand, approach out, and come in?
Yeah.
You can't. I mean, and that's the frustrating part is you watch like a Francis Tiafoe, who's an amazing athlete. His body, they hit these like slice backhand, side spin backhands. They're at their body and they're cutting across the ball and doing this, and it looks really fun. But they're not hitting that shot and coming on an approach shot. But that's where kids will watch that kind of stuff and just eat it up. So it really is tough fighting against that.
The term stick a volley means you get hit by a stick. You just play that volley deep. Singles or doubles, you just make one volley, your chance to win the point just skyrocket. But it's amazing at all levels how people, because of the way someone hangs on the racket, maneuvers the racket, grip swing, and therefore body, it's like this Michael Andre, the way he volleys, it doesn't make sense to tell him to close in because the racket's going down, the body can't go forward on the backhand volley especially. I told him, I said, your forehand volley could improve, but your backhand volley could take a lesson from your forehand volley.
1% say, though, look at Dimitrov at Wimbledon against Sinner. Or the variety that he brought to that match. And Sinner's forehand, as good as he is, Sinner's forehand is complicated. His unit turn is fine, but then he's got a little extra wave going on. And so if you have the skill set to mix up speed and spin and get him moving a little bit to the right, where vision isn't so great when you're on the run, he misses that thing because the forearm starts taking over. And, but most people don't have the skill set to do that. He loves it when people are just blasting, and then he can just use his mobility and skills to be balanced and make the shot. But Dimitrov was mixing things up and can hit the underspin well. And it was giving him a hard time. It was just unfortunate that, he got that injury, but people aren't talking about his serve, how he fans the racket open and how much that's going to put stress on that pec and shoulder.
Right.
He's not being told that on his serve. No chance.
Well, then again, the top, what happens at the very top, he's talking about Pete Sampras, talking about being missed, the way he would volley. Again, most people finesse volleys. Coming in and being able to thump it, whereas, like you said, square the racket face up at the hit. With for our listeners, Yvonne, we've got a few jingles from our phone. Yvonne, you can't edit those out. He's still helping us out. He's working remotely. He's done so much for helping us with this podcast. Let's do this. 2 more points. I have to come back to Andy at the end on 5 years later. But Dave, why don't you guess what Costas has learned here this summer? And Costas, you could tell us what you've learned. What do you think? What do you think he's learned here at our summer camp?
Costas, how long have you been there?
It'll be close to 2.5 months.
2.5 months.
Yeah.
So 10 weeks with Steve.
Yes.
Well, I would say that first you learned that you didn't know anything.
Actually, that was
about
what
sport
I was
of tennis.
say.
Secondly, you learned that God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. And, it's always better to listen than speak when you're in situations where you're, there to learn. And I have a German coach, and he worked with some great coaches over there. He's about 45 years old now, but he told me one of the places he worked, he asked the head coach what his role was, and the guy told him to keep his mouth shut and feed balls and just watch him. And so I think you probably you learned the value of listening and learning and asking questions, and you probably also learned that you could go the rest of your life and probably still have so much to learn about the art and science of tennis teaching. Because I don't think any of us will, have our cup full by the time we go to our grave. And because, that experience you're getting there, incredible. I think you probably, it'll be a life changer. I wish I had the chance to meet you in person. Maybe I will someday, but I think those are big things. When you learn that you didn't really have a good handle, even though you probably perceived yourself as someone who maybe did have a good handle, and I know I think those are just great reminders. It's like John Wooden, the great basketball coach. It's what you learn after you really know it all, or after you know it all, that really counts. And I think when probably within a few days, you probably figured out, geez, I'm not sure I knew anything. And now you're on a path that probably feels a lot different and a lot more rewarding. But am I close?
No, you probably read my mind. I did actually coming here know that I didn't know much. That's something, though. I didn't really come here thinking that I was going to teach anyone anything. Quite the opposite. But you read my mind on the fact that I really didn't. I really basically you realize how much you still have to learn. And but I think that's the beauty of it. I think it would be very boring if it was simple, and simple in the sense that there was a ceiling to learning, and that's how I came across to the GreatBase. I started in this profession out of college, knowing nothing about teaching tennis, and I didn't have the formal education that you had through Steve of becoming a tennis coach. I was just looking for answers how to become a better coach, and that was the problem I think I faced when I started. Is I would go and I would shadow people, and it was like, is that it? Is that the best? That I can learn from someone. And then I think, the GreatBase and the homework Steve has done was just eye-opening to see that, oh, wow, like there's so much to learn. This is super exciting. But no, like you said, it is life-changing. And, I just realized going back to Columbus, I just have so much work to do. But yeah.
Oh, maybe you have to. You definitely stay in touch with Andy. Maybe you could catch him in in Columbus. Let me just do this, and we'll call it a night. Appreciate everybody hanging in there with. Andy founded the podcast 5 years ago. Couldn't be with us last week. Last week was 260, so we're at 261. But Andy's, Andy married way over his head, just way over his head. So the better half, Leo, parents are older. They go back to Germany. And I said to Fitzell, what about the podcast? And he said, one a week. And we have done it, one a week for 5 years. But how about the next 5 years, Andy? One of you coaches, we were thinking about being the tennis police. I remember Florian Meyer from OTI asked you, because you questioned him on something about Braden, and he said, what are you, the Braden police? And he goes, yeah, I am. So what do you got for us, Fitzell? Coaches, what do we need in the next 5 years? We need to get you back on. How long are you in the States for?
Let me see with Costas really quick. I was going to say, the first thing you definitely learn how to do is how to operate with little or no sleep.
No, it's all good.
Right. So work ethic for sure. I would think how to evaluate a player when they come in, how to test them, how to film, and then, the practical application. So, you see how, the video analysis, but then how do you take that apart and put it back together again? And then definitely group dynamics, and then the character side of things. The next 5 years, you keep chipping away, but as technology changes, and everybody's got phones and whatnot, I think you could add to it. Obviously, scheduling and logistics comes into it, but to try to use video and do the Brady Bunch thing that we've talked about before. But you got to just keep chipping away.
No, I know. It never ends.
Yeah, I think also the leaders, like say overnight, Andy Roddick, it's great. So many people are listening to his podcast, but the shorties he has like 8-minute podcasts. You're just, okay, we got to get out our thoughts on this one thing. But I do, my one thought though is so many of the podcasts are about the pro game instead of the game. I think we have to think more about, even we don't do enough with adult players. We had these 2 women from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and it was just so much fun. It was a little short staffed because a couple of people were out at weddings and such, and 3 coaches weren't here. But no problem, didn't skip a beat because all the students are taught to teach. But the GreatBase works for 4-year-olds or 74-year-olds, or the ladies were there. Hey, we play twice a week, but hey, let the strings go out towards the target. But anyway, let's go with Anderson. Why don't you give us a closing thought all the way from the Big D?
Well, yeah, I mean, I love doing these. It's great to hear your voice again, Andy, and hope that Cash and Tracy, I hope that relationship with you continues, and they have great success like they have been. I've been following them because they've made such a great run here. They played in Dallas here at the Dallas Open. Hopefully they'll be back. But Costas, best of luck.
Thank you, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
Yeah, I think tennis needs great people with curious minds in it, and I know that you'll do a great job going forward. And and Steve, congrats on 5 years. Goes by quickly.
Too quickly.
Too quickly. So, let's keep improving and keep it rolling.
And most importantly, I was just teasing about Greece and Greece. I don't get
Grease Lightning.
Grease Lightning with
Grease Lightning.
But Andy and Dave and Costas, listeners, thank you very much. And I hope, how's it go? Tennis Treasure Chest, people found a few golden nuggets in this episode. Adios, amigos.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
All right, guys. Have a good night.
Fun to be back on. Appreciate it.
All right, bye.